bows. One bow, second bow, third bow. Omitofo. Thank you, everyone. Now we'll hand the time over to Mr. Chen, Brother Chen.
Dear Master, all the Jingse.
Every family in Australia and New Zealand, hello. Thank you for the team for allowing us to have such a good time to share Dharma today. So today I'd like to talk about charity work. So these are the topics we'll be talking about today. And the work that we've done and the work that we've seen. So today is the second class. There is a lot of work, so we start at 20 past and hope that we can finish within the time frame. And the next class will start soon too. So I'd like to share with everyone. So when we look at the we treat charity cases like our teachers, and we should aim to cultivate our humility, patience, and self-respect, reflect while visiting our charity cases. Because every country has a different local niche. So, as I share my own experiences, it is for everyone to grasp just the core values and think about what is needed in our own local areas to develop our own models. So this is the aim and the theme for today. So our class agenda, we so what does compassion and wisdom mean, or what kind of information do we need to make a good assessment, and how do we get these information? And when we face other people or very complex situations, sometimes we feel like we're not too sure what to do. How can we change our mindset and be positive? So with this agenda, this is the way I will take this class and put my own thoughts and feelings into it. So I'd like to start off with a video for everyone. So this is a story about Lai Mei, Sijie, so sister, and what she has been doing through the class, what she's been doing through charity work.
杯，亲自走访贫苦人家，透过亲耳、亲眼、亲手。
So she often does goes to these cases all by herself.
慈善置业发展处的资料中可以看到，1966年到2014年，慈济在台湾。
So Tzu has increased the number of people that we have helped out on.
及奠定的长期济助与急难救助外，逐渐发展出居家关怀、医疗或丧葬费用补助、居家打扫、房屋修缮与定期关怀等多元方式，不断创新，因人、因时、因地。
So every time when we do this, we help people out, and we make sure that the cases that we look after will find happiness.
最重要的原因。
欢迎继续回到回眸来时路。
So let's come back and look at the history of Tzu from the very first beginning, being able to write down the stuff that we, the people that we visit.
我们今天邀请到了
we'd like to invite Meizi's sister to share with us.
分享，欢迎美智师姐，感恩
So
你。
let's look at the first picture.
感恩的
This
是要
is very this has something to do with you. I'm seeing you
就在画
kneel
面
down over there
看到您
with the old grandpa. What were you doing there
整理些什
with
么
gloves on?
带
Can
着
you tell us a bit more about the situation?
这样的情况呢？
So this old grandpa
他提供来给我们
on
后
the
是在1
17th of January,
我们去看
his house looked like a rubbish dump. It was really cold, but he wasn't wearing any pants.
天气很
He
冷，
was just wearing a very heavy jacket.
身上只是穿一件很厚
And his feet, there were some ulcers.
上，又是好像
And we
烂
think,
烂的，
we're thinking, so does he has any disease, any skin conditions?
我们不
So
知
we
道。
asked the doctor to come and help
所以
and
我
see
也
what's going on and diagnose him. The doctor
忙
said it is because of diabetes.
讲跟我
So
他是糖尿
his
看
there
伤
was a
口
lot of water and a lot of pus coming out of his
我还
feet.
以为是尿下去，因为我们有给他穿
And so the old grandpa,
下去。
he
我说这
he
里
was also incontinence, urine incontinence.
我看
So he
上
we thought he was
后
we
来才
thought he was actually peeing or urinating, but no, he wasn't.
大那个泡一起大
It was because the ulcers on his feet were there was a lot of pus
然后
and it
最
was all
后
wet.
他
So
是
his
穿的拖鞋，
so his shoes and his slippers all very wet
所以呢，我
and
就
dirty.
赶快帮他清干净一点。
是就是在他的这个指头中间帮他
对
清一下。
对对，然后
哇那
没
So or did it smell quite bad in there? And then was there any smells?
不容易。
味道是有啦，不过
Yes, there was a lot of smell, but when we think about it, we thought, we want to care for this old grandpa.
多。
哇，提到了这个宋贝贝啊，我们来看一下宋贝贝他的资料哈。
So this old grandpa, from the first time we received the case to supporting him,
特别提到啊，在画面上这旁边的已经是电脑打好的资料啊。
so this information has already been typed up. I remember listening to another volunteer share that
又看到
we used to have to write things up.
19
Yeah,
号
so it's a big development.
应该是在因为落实社区以后，各方面都方便很
So when
多
we。saw that Grandpa had a lot of
不堪，就天气那么冷，一个人
problems and need a lot of support
面对的
with
是
rubbish on the bed, in the house and everything. So we talked to
就赶快跟
our volunteers
啊
and cleaned up his house the next day.
固定起来，第二天赶快去帮他
So
打扫，
everyone worked together
为师兄师姐
to help.
但也是很合心
So
合
during
力。
the time we give,
接下来看，其实在整
the care that we give to people is very different and varied.
部的关
So
怀
if we look at this form,
访视记录表，哇，
we see that there is a lot of different things that we do, and it's very detailed.
特别是有一项啊，他就提到了这个案主的经济状况之后是可以评
And
估
we see that there's a lot of different activities or a lot of different things we can do. We can keep visiting them. We can give them some financial aid or a lot of different options of care.
变迁很大
So
嘛，
because society has changed so much, there is different charity cases all around with different complex needs. So we need to change the support that we give so we are able to fit what they need.
很繁杂的问题都出现了。因此呢，我们
So
真
when we
的
look at this, we need
来讲
to
就是
understand the Four Noble Truths, will be explained later.
运用
So,
上来了，
is it because they're in a lot of suffering, for example, financial suffering, or even
嗯，
maybe employment
就业不
sufferings?
去多
And
了，
then
去
when we go and look at this,
查房以
a lot of the
后，
times when we see this, it's not just the suffering that we see
见的
on the surface, but it could be some deeper sufferings that they are unable to say.
具体关怀
And
啦，
because of these different sufferings, we need to think about the different ways and methods we can help
关怀
these
的
people.
方式，还有
Master often tells us that
那
um,
如果是我们
if there is things that we could give them, for example, financial or material
嗯
needs, we need to
要
give it to them. We not
你
only want
而不
to
是
see the
像
stuff on the
真实
surface, but we need to look deeper and delve deeper into finding the
做
root cause of the problem.
这个
So
理
with this direction, um, we can find
做能
different actions that we can take. There is not one fits all kind of situation.
靠真正的方
We
式
can't say this person needs financial aid or this type of people doesn't
不
need financial aid. We
是在
mustn't
面
put
让人
our
说
emotions
哎
into
对
this
不要太 重视，
this
可
method,
是
but at the
你
same time we can't be too objective. We need to find a balance between this.
拿捏，那这个都是一个精神
So
面
if everybody can use this method, finding that balance,
大家能够按这
doing
样
the assessment is not that difficult.
那评估上就不是这么困难。
So from this video, we can find that in one of the sutras, it talks about like the master boatman as they ferry all living beings from the river of life to the river of death to the shores of nirvana. So what can we do to get there? So we must find a compassion. We must find a balance between compassion and wisdom and work hand in hand. So we need to find a balance between the emotional and the rational. So the emotional could be like the oars of a boat, and the rational is the direction we're heading towards. And with these two things, we can find the speed of the boat, and we can able to row the boat safely across the river. So as sister said in the video, we need to find that balance between the emotional and the rational. And with any assessment, we need to leave some room so that we are able to share and to able to work together to find the situation, to fix the situation. We must find some timely practical support. So we need to think about it, and we need to follow these principles with flexibilities, so that it is not just about just following the SOP, but being able to suit the needs of the person. So during to relieve suffering, Master tells us that we need to demonstrate the spirit of loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And through that process, the charity case would journey through suffering, accumulation of causations, then cesations of causations, and leading to the path. So Tzu people should not only observe the situation on the surface, but we must recognize the suffering and what causes these sufferings, and contemplate on the way to eliminate suffering. So here we can see that we are using the Buddhist concept of the Four Noble Truths. So the truth of suffering, accumulation, cessation, and leading to the path. So for example, if it is a single mother, we can see that they must receive hardship because it's hard to find jobs, need to look after son, etc. So during this time, when we talk to them, we need um, we need to think about what these single mothers or what they are going through. For example, because they need to take care of the children, so they are unable to go out and find work, or maybe they've left home early, so they are not very close with their family. So during the time when we talk to these charity cases, we must understand their background, and then we have to think about how to help them, and we need to think about how to get rid of these causes. For example, um, maybe there are help in the society that they can receive, benefits, etc. Or maybe we can help the kids go to school, or maybe they can do a bit of um, work, etc. And once we have a plan of attack, we can think about how we can put it and implement the plan. So, for example, we can think about if they have a job and they need to work during the day and have to look after the children at night. Um, are they are they doing it well, or are they having any problems with that? We need to talk to them and discuss. And what about their children? When they grow up, do they need to find a good school to go to, etc.? So we need to deep talk and discuss deeper. Starting from just a single mother, we need to think about the things all around, and whether they have any hope or anything they want to accomplish themselves as well. So when we go and do these actions, we must use the four infinite minds, or the four immeasurables, which is loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. So we must respect them and treat and be friendly. And then when we understand the suffering that they have gone through, we need to think about, we need to use empathy and try and understand from their perspective. And then when we talking about how to help these people, having a discussion, um, we need to think about their individual needs and how we can work together in teamwork, and use a lot of wisdom. And the next thing that is very important is that we need to feel happy when the individuals have been relieved of their suffering. And a lot of the times, they might not want to tell us or anything. So we need to forgive them, and we need to be understanding of their situation. For example, once when I went to a charity case, the mother, because the husband had a very critical disease and needed financial support. But because of that, they weren't able to go out and work. He She had a son who was in charge of the financial situation. So when we talk to the mom about giving financial support, she hid a lot of things from us. And when we talk deeper, we realize that she does have a bit of savings and other sources of income. So the first thing we thought in our minds would be, is she lying to us? And it made us feel a little uncomfortable. But if we think about from her perspective, her mom, because she wasn't able to provide for her children, and keep thinking about um, she kept thinking about the financial situation, and thought if she hid some things she will be able to get more help. So when we think about things from her perspective, we are able to understand what she is going through and be able to forgive um, that she had lied to us. And because of that, we will not because of these charity cases and these situations, we will not lose faith in humanity. So when we do this, we need to think about the six parameters. And lastly, we need to um, look after ourselves as well, and follow the precepts. This is all a part of the path of being a bodhisattva. And we need to join these classes and join these discussions and analyze these situations that the charity cases are facing. So every time we work with these cases, we need to think about the six parameters. So we must be generous and have generosity, discipline, and patience. And through these things, we will be able to build diligence and have a good concentration and wisdom. So we need to put all these six parameters together. So our master tells us in our Jinsa for aphorism that being compassionate, we must be friendly and kind. Being wise, we must be truly humble. So when we go and do these charity work, this is very important, and it is the attitude that we must have. So when we assess these cases, there is a few things that we must be very sure about, and it is very important. So we often think that assessments of charity work is at the very start of charity work. But in fact, it is all throughout the process, and providing a support, timely support. And even when we are about to close the case, we must also assess, and we must think about and talk within our teams about the way that we close these cases, or if there's anything else we need to do before we close these cases. And we need to think about the situation of the charity cases. This is a very active process. So the process is not just about the analyzing or the collecting of information at that one visit. Instead, it is all throughout these charity cases. So the first time we look at these, this is the way we do the workflow of charity visits. So if we look at this picture, so from the first time that we go and visit and care, and then we do a team assessment, and then we decide on actions. And then this will keep circling around until we are able to conclude the case. And it is always there and present. So the needed characteristics that we need to put it within ourselves at all times, and this will assist us in making assessments. So we must have continuity, progressivity, individuality, interactiveness, objectiveness, and also judgment. So continuity, um, it is not just the first instant. As long as we have continual interactions, so, for example, we visit them often, or we talk to them on the phone, we will have new information that comes through. And even we will understand their situation, and we will be able to care for them and have a connection with them. And being um, so, with the continual assessments, it will allow us to adjust the care and understand their situation. And think about whether they have any additional needs that we have not thought about before yet. And any changes within their household, will it change the support that we give, or is there any additional support that they may need? And because we are keeping close contact with them, we are able to adjust our plans accordingly to new needs or new situations that have come up. So it is very important that when we are changing team members, or if uh, teams have changed over, the handover needs to be comprehensive and thoughtful. So usually in our area, our charity, one charity case will be handled by the same team, because that way we are able to continue our care and have more understanding of this person. But the only time we actually change is if they've moved from one area to another, or if they have moved far away. But when this happens, we will talk to the individual to let them know what's happening, and to be able to hand the work over to the other people, or the other people in the region. So what happens is usually that um, we will have the person that was responsible to accompany the new team to visit this individual for the first few times, and then once they get used to each other, or they have formed a relationship, then we will let go and allow the new team to continue. The next thing is progressivity, and this is because some of these cases are very diverse and complex. We It's not very easy to understand what they need. It's not just about the first visit, the second visit, but it may be a few visits before we understand. So we there must be a goal, or a planning of the collection of information, and sometimes we need some very timely discussions to see the direction that we are heading. And we can think about, okay, so the next time we visit, what is it that we need to care and we need to collect? And a lot of times it could be that we must go very regularly because these individual needs a lot of help. So maybe every week we need to go and visit them, or and then um, when things start to ease, we can think about maybe each visit can be slightly longer. The time between each visit can be slightly longer, for example, 2 weeks. This all needs discussion within the team. And we need to think about, we need to discuss, and we also need to talk about this with the individuals, whether it is suitable for their needs. Sometimes when we talk to our brothers and sisters, um, we um, the brothers and sisters will tell us that maybe there is a lot of people who have hidden information from us, or is not telling us something. For example, they have already received help from other people, or they've actually never received help from people and don't understand that they must give us some personal details and some information about them themselves. So they um, are scared or afraid to tell us some personal details. So when we go to these visits, we must think about their situation, and we need to be aware and sensitive to, for example, their actions or what they have said. Sometimes we also need to explain to these individuals these cases about why we are doing these kind of things, and the explanations behind the information that we are collecting. So these charity cases will understand that we are caring for them, and the reasons behind why, and they are more willing to share with us. Sometimes we understand that there could be things that they are withholding from us. So once we visited a family with the amputees, and the ex-wife was also there. So when we visited the amputee, he seems to be withholding information, not saying much. And um, when our sisters went, it felt like we weren't making any headway into more understanding. And then we realized that it could be because the ex wife is there. And so we thought maybe it's because the ex-wife is there. So we need to maybe split them apart so that the charity case can say what he wants to say. And we were able to collect a lot more information. So this is something that we need to be sensitive about during the assessment process, and to be able to change our methods and the way we react. And of course, the next one is individuality. Although some cases may have very similar needs, but because of the specificity of the needs, we must think about how we can adapt our support to fit their needs. For example, everybody needs to eat, but when we eat things, or for example, we our weight, for example, what we need to do, or we need what job we have. It will depend on the kind of foods that we eat. So when we have a support case or a charity case, we must think about the difference the different needs that they have, and each individual family will require a specific assessment. So it is important that we don't stereotype, because this will be misleading, and will make our assessments, um, it will impair our judgment of our assessments. So sometimes when we look at these cases, and we might turn up to the situation and find a very young person, and we think, oh, why does this young couple need support? Is it because they're lazy and they are not going out to work, or um, or they just don't feel the need to work, etc. These kind of stereotypes will affect the attitudes that we have when we go into these cases, and will affect the support that we will provide. So it is very important that we go and care for them without any pre notions of um, what their lives may be like. And when we go and care for them and understand them and assess, we go back and discuss with the team. So this is not a single way. Not just we're collecting information from them, but we also need them to understand why we're making these observations. So it is a two-way communication. So, for example, back to the amputee, from the charity case that I was talking to you about. Um, we, for example, that person um, had uh, had missed their rent payment for the last 3 4 months. So the brothers and sisters, when they went, we talked about giving him financial assistance to pay off the rent, and then we need to keep following up on the situation. So after this rent payment, um, we followed up and realized that he didn't actually go ahead and pay for the rent. Instead, he moved to somewhere else. And we were very worried and thought, what's going on? But we talked to him and thought, the money was for the rent. Why did he still move away from this house? So the next time we went and visited him, so we talked to him and said, and was very honest. We wanted to know why he had moved and what he had used that money for, because it was very worrisome for us. And the charity case said, because um, he he had some issues with his ex-wife, and he didn't want his ex-wife to um, know that he had received this money. So he moved to a cheaper place so he is able to use that money to support his daily living costs. So once we understood that the reason why he used the money the way he did, we were able to understand and forgive the misconceptions that he gave us, but and also be able to make a better plan for the future. So It will allow us not to fall into negative thoughts and stay positive when interacting with him. So it is very important that we allow the charity cases to have a good line of communication with us. And if we have their input, our cases will be able to be conducted smoothly, and we will be able to find their needs a lot faster. So in a lot of these cases, for example, instead of just giving them financial aid, we can actually work with them and say, hey, let's go together to find employment, etc., and be able to support them through this process. Um, and we are able to give them financial aid, but instead it will be more of an encouragement for them to find jobs instead of always being living on the benefit. So every case we need to think about what it is that these people need and what it is that we can provide, but through talking and through discussion. So another thing is that we must stay objective. So, for example, we must accept the case's individuality and weaknesses, and we also need to observe their strengths and changes at the same time, because every person will have strengths and weaknesses, and we cannot depend only on our knowledge or past experiences. We must ask advice from senior charity members or professionals. For example, if there is a medical case or if there is a different support case or care case, we may need to um, get the charity case to provide their medical records, so we are able to seek professional advice from, say, the TEMA team or doctors. Um, we need to talk to these individuals and ask them what it is that they can provide for us to make assessments. We must not only depend on our own knowledge. And next thing is judgment. So these information collection will occur in stages. It's not just about going once or twice. Um, we're not able to collect all the information from just a few visits. So we need to think whether the support case um, has given us all the information, or maybe they're not familiar with us, so they are still withholding some kind of information from us. So we must be aware that uh, these things always occur in stages, and we mustn't hurry the situation along. Mm. So it is very important that these information collection um, is on the key points of the cases situation, and we need to understand the urgency of the needs and the timeliness of the support that we can provide. So what is the main points that we need to collect at this stage? What is the information that is important? And when we get this information, it is very important that we have timely discussions to quickly um, go through the information and discuss actions and adaptations. We also need to think about government benefits. And for example, these government benefits have applications have a specific time, or other NGOs as well, and whether we can work together and support them through the process. So we need to think about the urgency of their needs, and or we can't say, oh, we need this information to do this, or we need that information, or he hasn't told us this, so we aren't able to provide support. Instead, we need to use the information that we have and make a judgment on what kind of support we can provide, whilst at the same time still collecting the information. It is very important that the urgency of the needs are met, so we can help them through and relieve suffering. So sometimes when we go to these case studies, when we go to these cases, we need to um, also look around and talk to people that are in their lives, for example, their neighbors or the person that has given us this case, and think about the accuracy or the trustworthiness of the source of the information. For example, are the neighbors trustworthy, or are they very accurate, or are they just here, or is it hearsay that they're talking about, etc. So we will have a video um, that about a young boy and what he has gone through, and what people around him has been helping him, and how they are going to help him.
I'd like y'all to help me in welcoming a new student all the way from Burma. And his name is Kanya. Why don't you go have a seat back there behind Johnny? Are you all right? Kenya, would you like to do the next poem?
You may rhyme me
A little louder, honey.
down in his story with your bitter,
Bitter.
bitter toy, toy.
Kenya!
Hey, Jeremy. Today you're going to be tutoring one of our new students, Kenya.
Okay, thanks. What's up, Kenya? I'm Jeremy. All right. So, we're going to be doing some reading today. All right. Start with chapter 1. It was almost December, and Jonas was beginning to be frightened. No, wrong word, Jonas thought.
The old man looked up smiling when Jonas entered the room.
Madi bam nilai.
What? I don't understand.
Kaya ni tinya ita tu balia.
He was already seated beside the bed, and he seemed more energetic today. And they all got to the cave. And suddenly before the kids was a...
What was it?
So you are listening. Was a monster. And the monster chased the kids all the way down a hill.
Funny. Where?
I'm sorry I'm late, Kenya. Our practice went over.
Not there.
Sorry, buddy.
I'm not your buddy. Nta tinya ya ba, nta napo ya ba.
Danielle?
Here.
Johnny?
Here.
Kanya? Kanya?
Kenya.
Ma khơi à đây.
Kenya. Ye doke neti taco. Doye na.
How did you learn Korean?
It wasn't easy. Galuage. Galuage. Tablu doma. Tablu doma. Ipele. Nahe pele. Huh? Nahe pele. Come on, stand up. How's my pronunciation?
It's alright. Let's practice together.
All right, let's go.
My name is Ganyan, and my family moved to America because of the civil war in Burma. When I come here, it was hard to communicate with others, and I hate it. But then, someone told me that when words fail, actions speak. I don't want to hate. I want to speak love. Thank you.
Oh, I almost forgot. Now, class, I'd like for you to all help me welcome a new student all the way from the country of the Congo. His name is Aristide. All right, see you all tomorrow.
Hi, Aristide.
Right.
What's up, everybody? This is Jeremy Lin. Thank you for
In
watching.
this video, we can see that the main character, you can see that you can see that the student that's looking after this student is unable to take care of the student very well because he wasn't very accepting. But you can see the change when the student, after he can see the change of the overseas student when the case worker actually changed the way he communicated with the student. Using the mother tongue was a really good way to help get to know the student well. So this overseas student can feel that the caseworker had a lot of heart and mindfulness. So had built a lot of trust and confidence in the main character or the caseworker to help him. So when we go to visit our cases, we constantly need to make sure that we take our care so they can see our sincerity. So when we get information, the information that we collect is actually useful so that the cases do not feel that we're wasting their time or invading their privacy. So we need to make sure that when we go, we do take our care and our mindfulness so then we reduce the miscommunication. So while we're collecting information, I will always call them and make an appointment with them. I will always let them know at what time I will give them a bit of a background history so they know that who referred their case to us, and let them know that we would like to go to their house to understand them better for the purpose of knowing them and get to know what we can do to help them. So the purpose of our visit is really to help them. So the way I the way I communicate to the cases, there is no guarantee on how much we can help. So we leave a bit of a space that to give us a bit of space to work with the case. So sometimes volunteers may say, oh, let's just come and speak and just have a communication and just get to know you. And so in this circumstance, we're actually not providing the proper communication to the cases. We may get a very vague impression. So we must give them some background knowledge. So before we go to visit the case, we will have quite a lot of, we will have limited information. So it's important that we do a bit of research behind these cases. So this background information is very important because whilst these cases may need a particular help, understanding their background, you will know what type of information you will need to collect. For example, if there's a medical case, then you will actually need to look into their background and have some foresight to see what information we need. Maybe it is how much the medical cost is going to be, how long the procedure is going to be. So before then, we should make a map and a draft of what we should be making, and a draft of what we should be assessing and asking, and the interview questions. So before, we should always before we go, we should always do a bit of ice breaking. So through ice breaking, step by step, we'll be able to get into the topic that we will need. Once you get into some particular questions, it's important to understand and observe the case's feedback. So previously, you may have done a draft on what questions you may need to ask, but by analyzing the feedback of the cases, we can actually jump from question to question rather than following the drafts. So whilst we're asking questions, we go with the rhythm of the interview. We can go deep as well as some casual chatting, then we will actually be more successful. So if we just follow our draft interview questions and go from one to the next, then it makes the conversation very dry. A lot of examples of cases where like they said that Tzu people, when they ask questions, it's just like the policeman. It's very serious. So sometimes we need to reflect in how we present ourselves. So the way that we approach the interview is more about expressing our concerns for the case rather than just trying to get information from the case and interfering to their privacy. We should always avoid criticism and debating with the case. I have heard that some volunteers may bring some preconceptions to the case. So during the interview, it's very hard for the volunteer to actually find the information, and therefore through this preconception, you may cause some disharmony. And so whilst you do that, it actually makes the interview very awkward. And the case may cause the G to make a few make complaints. So when I get these phone calls, I always listen to our volunteers and to see how they are going emotionally and helping them and educating them to overcome. So we always need to stand from Tzu Chi's perspective and what would Tzu Chi values teach us and what will we do as an organization. So while we're interviewing, if we have arguments with the cases, or if they feel like we are forcing them into an idea, we're actually providing some negative impressions on the cases. I know that a lot of cases, sometimes they feel they don't really need the help from Tzu Chi people, but they some cases they have complained to say that most of the time I don't really need the help, but because the way that the interview was conducted, it actually destroyed their ego. So sometimes it's very important to keep that in mind. So we keep the conversation open and honest. So therefore, whilst sometimes we may have a case who have some issues in terms of complaining, we can resolve the issue. When we are at the interview and there are a lot of requests and expectations from the cases, we never commit and guarantee anything for our cases. We will always discuss in a meeting, and the decisions will be made as a team. And then after the decision, we will let the case know what we're going to do to help them. We will not refuse the case on the spot either. We will always take the case back to meet and discuss. Most of the time, the cases will always accept this form of requests from Tzu Chi. Sometimes we may not meet the expectations of the type of help we can do will help the cases. Most of the time, the cases will be able to accept it as long as we communicate them with sincerity. When we visit the cases, we need to observe the living environment. Also, we also need to be mindful of the case's family members. We can also talk to people around the family, the neighbors, the local government. Maybe they have some information. We can also can speak to people that maybe are lawyers that may have information about law to get some more information and understand what we can do. When we're interacting with the cases, whilst we're interacting with the cases, we can also gain a lot of information. The experiences of the interviewer is something that is useful when going to interviews, but we also need to be mindful of our own experience, because we don't want to take what we had experienced before into the new case, and that may impact our decisions. So we start from understanding their living environment. So how has their living environment been impacted by their situation, and how can we help in terms of their living environment? Maybe the family and the children have limited space. They don't have study desks or study lamps, and it may impact their children's education. So we should analyze the living environment to find out that type of information. Also, we also need to look at their social impacts, like their family, friends, their workplaces, and charities. They find out about their financial. Do they have any savings? How much are their living expenses? Is there any other organizations or neighbors that actually can help them financially as well? We need to always be mindful to think about the positives of the cases. Look at the positivities of the cases. Maybe the case actually has a lot of energy and is willing to work hard. So a lot of these positivity can impact the way we make our decisions. Does the case have a urge to change his environment, and has a urge to make a life change? So this is also something we need to look into. So whilst we interview them, understanding their history may and so this graph you can actually, or this table you should take with you at the end. I'll put it at the end of the form that we fill in for the cases, so then you don't miss out on any information. Sometimes you may feel that there's a lot of information that we need to collect, but there are some principles in terms of what we are, where this information goes and what we should be taking care of. So the first thing is that we should be, the main point is to care for the case. And through care, we take it slowly and step by step, trying to get the information that we need out from them. We don't let the case feel like we have so many questions to ask, where they feel like we're invading their privacy. So we need to understand what are the information that will actually benefit our decision to make the correct decision for the case. So we don't ask a whole lot of questions that are not very useful. We also need to protect the individual's privacy. And so in our daily conversations, we should not be talking about these cases. Only in meetings should we be talking about these cases. We should avoid, subjective decisions and subjective ideas. All these principles, while you're using, you should always review them and understand them and self-reflect on them. And from here, you will gain a lot of learning. When we ask the case, we will always ask, what are they expecting from us? Sometimes they don't know what to say to help them. So with our experience and our observation, we will be able to understand maybe what other things they may need. So for example, during winter, you can observe that they may have a very thin blanket. Therefore, maybe we should give them a thicker blanket. So maybe these are the things that they don't say, but it's probably something that they may need. So after observing, maybe there is a family member that is sick and need medical assistance. So we always need to refer to a professional, and from the professional's point of view, we will be able to make the decisions that we need to help the case. So what are the needs for these cases? So needs are not just physical, like food, clothing. There's also the emotional part of the cases as well. So whilst we take these cases on, we need to be able to be more inclusive, letting them know that we care and allow them to develop. Just like working, you always try to develop them. So in the beginning, we should ease them physically, then move to mentally, settle their living, and then settle their learning. So it's a level that continues to go up. So in the beginning, it's more like helping the poor. And then at the end, it's all about educating so they can stand up and maybe even help another person. So the companionship is like 1.1 times 1.1. So 1 is like the physical help. So 1 times 1, physical health times physical health is 1 times 1 is only 1. But by helping them mentally and emotionally, it's like 1.1 times 1.1, which gives you a greater number. So while we are working, we need to be work as a team. So this allows us to have more longevity. So what are some of the aspects of care that we need to have a look at? So we look at the entire person, the family, the whole process, and then the team. So in the family, every single family member is someone that we can also take care of. So for example, a person that a father in the family, a father maybe had a stroke. So therefore, whilst looking after the sick patient, you can't just look after the person that has a stroke, but you also have to look after the other family members. So maybe because a father has a stroke, it also impacts a child's education. So we should also take care of their child as well. So when we're looking at cases, we should change the family's livelihood. So we should use the resources from the whole team. So in medical, we could do medical care. We can provide financial assistance, and we can even accompany the team visits to help them. Also for education, we can provide scholarships, financial aid, and we can also invite them to Tzu Chi camps so they can get involved with Tzu Chi as well. Also, humanistic culture, we should encourage the volunteers to come to attend our events or do volunteer work. So what we do is actually very holistic, and there's many facets to it. So we have to look at it holistically. So now I would like to share a story of a grandma. So this is how an example of how we have covered every aspect of charity actions. Hello, what are you doing here? I'm here to work. I am a cleaner. I will clean about 4 to 5 class places or houses. I do this because I need money. Back in that time, my husband had a stroke, and my second son also, my second son's business also failed. And my husband also had a second stroke. My daughter-in-law had a baby, 7-month-old, and she didn't want to live with us. So then I had to take care of the family. I had to clean to make money. In the evening, I will help the noodle shop to clean in the evening. So I will finish cleaning maybe after 10 o'clock. So we found out that the grandma is the breadwinner of the family. Her son also had a car accident and was in ICU. So while we were visiting this grandma, we realized that this grandma is very worried because she did not have any money. She only had 1,000 NT dollars in her bank. And so she felt like had no energy and didn't know what to do. She actually kneeled in front of us, begging us to help her. Back in that time, my son could not even talk. 6 years ago, Ah Hong, all his right part was paralyzed, so he was not able to move. Tzu Chi is not even our relative. Why are they helping us so much? you should stand up strong. You should stand up strong and must stand up and help yourself, not just for yourself, but for your daughter as well. Because city volunteers really spend so much time, so you must stand up. And my wish is that my son can actually become self-sufficient and go to volunteer work at City. So how do you use this? This is a stretching mechanism. Every month we visit him. Why do we go every month? It's because we want to help build his confidence. So you have to continue to take care of him. The most important thing is now he's in step 2. He's going to step 3 and he needs to make a life change. And now he has joined Siji. He has made the changes. In the beginning, he found it difficult to express himself, and so he got very anxious and angry. And now he has overcome his fears and anger. So for us, it seems like a small step, but for him, it's a very big step. So to walk from home to his daughter's house is about 1.5 hours long. But for him, it takes 1.5 hours. For a normal person, it takes 20 minutes. So now you're going to pick up your daughter. You go to the door to pick up your daughter. That's really sweet. In the beginning, he could not speak or walk. So we accompanied him through his rehabilitation, and we saw great improvements. So we started to ask him to come to volunteer classes and do volunteer work. And so he's been doing this for about 5 years now. So Tzu volunteers have helped us a lot. So why should I say no to going to do volunteer work and volunteer training? The injuries to the brain takes a long time to recover. So during this time, you need a lot of friends to accompany him. So from the beginning, not being able to speak to now being able to speak, and to being unable to walk to now he can walk. This journey has been over 6 years now. So this is not just the volunteers' effort, but it's a empathy that the volunteers are developing and the values of Tzu. I treat him like a brother. So he's just like a part of my family. To help people with brain injuries, you have to continue to talk to them. I constantly talk to them. Even if they don't reply, you still talk to them. Because while they're listening, they're learning. His mother is smiling now, and she's becoming much younger. She never used to smile. His mother is just so happy that her son can become insufficient. This grandma knows that she has received a lot from Tzu, and she knows that the way that to repay all this help is to do environmental volunteering. Doing volunteer work reduces your worry. So everything will become better. Creating this good affinity is really good. So what are you doing with these boxes? I'm selling these boxes. What are you doing with the money? I'm putting it in the bamboo bank. I don't have a lot of money to donate. So whilst I'm cleaning, and if I have some extra money, and I have 100 or 200 NT dollars, I'll put it in the bamboo bank. I speak to my grandchildren often, and I let them know that Tzu helped your father a lot. So if you have the ability, you should become a Tzu volunteer and make donations. I know that 100 NT dollars is not a lot, but I know with this bit of help can also help someone's family. You can see on the photo, the middle person is the second son, Ah Hong, on the chair. This case, in the beginning, our volunteers realized this grandma around 10 years ago, her husband and her second son had accidents. And so her husband's not here anymore. And because Ah Hong had brain injury due to car accident. So the older son left the family and didn't want to be part of the family anymore. The third son is also far away and also went into jail. So this grandma had to look after Ah Hong, the second son. And because of that, his wife left him and left his daughter to take care of. So after finding out about this case, we actually provide financial assistance immediately. And this case is not just a financial assistance, but we actually provided a lot of emotional things, and we understood all the volunteers actually listened to the grandma and see what other things that are happening in her life, whether big or small. They also take care and listen to her. And so from this listening, we can actually find the source of the hardship. And then we realized that her hardship is actually because her son is unable to overcome his disability. And all she wanted was her son to become self-sufficient. And when our volunteers understood that this is what she need, the volunteers started to think about what are the things we can do to help the family. And because the second son of his disability, he had really poor anger. And so even the Tzu volunteers were looking at ways to help manifest and get the connection and the relationship between the mother and the son better as well. So volunteers didn't manufacture a superficial relationship to Tzu volunteers. You have to integrate it very seamlessly. So Ah Hong actually had a lot of previous incidences and accidents as well. So the volunteers understood that because of a lot of the things, it led to the wife leaving him. And so the Tzu volunteers had to develop some patience and empathy in terms of this case. In the beginning, actually, these cases didn't know what to say or create communication with Ah Hong. And through understanding Ah Hong better, they started to know that Ah Hong actually loves NBA and understood what he loves to eat. And from there, the volunteers were able to find nice conversations. And through this, Ah Hong became a family member to Tzu people. So Tzu volunteer work for Tzu is just a basic thing that we need to do. So Ah Hong, with the support of Tzu Chi volunteers, he was able to become a Tzu Chi volunteer. Ah Hong's mom wish was actually wanting to see him be self-sufficient and do Tzu Chi work, and before she passed away. He used becoming a Tzu Chi commissioner as his wish, as a challenge for him to overcome his disability. And therefore, with these wishes, it actually made him put in more effort in terms of physio. So Ah Hong's has 2 daughters, and there's a lot for Ah Hong to be able to take care of himself as well as his daughters. So the sisters of Tzu Chi started to look after the family members as well. So Tzu Chi volunteers started to take care of the family and try to fill in all the little gaps. Xiang?
So the speakers now talking about the good effect, about how owner of the hair salon now has a bamboo bank, and every time they have a customer in, they will put in a few cents into the bamboo bank. And then the relatives of this case have witnessed that Tzu Chi volunteers have spent a lot of time with their family and friends. Therefore, the relatives of these cases have also become members of Tzu Chi and donated to the foundation as well. So what we want to showcase here is that now the mother and the son, Ah Hong, is now walking together on the Bodhisattva path together. So they're wishing for that the son Ah Hong can soon become independent and recover from the incident. And they're all very hopeful for Ah Hong's future. The grandma shown on the image now was also a recycling volunteer in Taiwan. So obviously, when her son's accident happened, she was very sad and had a lot of struggled through a lot. But then through the company of Tzu Chi volunteers, she was able to walk out of these dark times. And then throughout Ah Hong's journey of recovery, there was a lot of different Tzu Chi volunteers that were accompanying him on this. So I often ask other volunteers what they've learned from this experience. And the Tzu Chi volunteers have told me that every life is a sutra, just like what Dharma Master Zheng Yen has told us. So as we engage with and work with these client, or I guess the community, we should stand in the same height as these cases, and we should not feel arrogant or feel that we're above them. The key point is that we're a community charity. We're working together with the community to provide aid to the community, to these individual cases. So that at the end of the day, it's the community that's helping the specific cases, and it's not just the Tzu Chi volunteers alone. The approach that we take is a very holistic approach, as we mentioned before. It's a whole individual, whole family, and whole team approach. So we want the community to welcome the old grandma in this case, so that the grandma feels that she's in a safe and welcoming environment. So this is a photo of one Mother's Day in the past. We can see that in this photo, the expressions on the cases, people's faces have changed. They're now more at ease, not showing as much depression compared to the previous photos in the beginning. So the cultivation that we go through in Tzu Chi is the training of helping. It's the training of helping without asking for nothing in return. So throughout this process, we need to ensure that when we provide great loving kindness, we do it without regret. And then the great compassion without resentments, great joy without worries, and great equanimity without expectations.
虽然伊是一只狗，不过呢，伊本性犹存，伫深山水，心地非常认真。伊会当爱山林中一切的动物。有一天，伫树顶采果，好亲像有人伫咧叫的声音。伊内心就是无去甲叫，心不忍啊。所以伊听到声音啊，不断催啦。发现了这个人，但是要去救伊呢，非常的无容易啊，断难山苦啊，真深。哪怕是断送了家己的性命，会当救人，他也愿意，所以想尽办法。看到树枝、草木，甚至呢石头、石壁，真危险，将上到下。看到这个人受伤，伊就讲：“来，拍下我的脚趾饼，我爱你起来。”山壁是断崖，迄石足粗的，落地就已经真辛苦。何况呢，背后歹着一个人，终于起来到山顶。伊甲人放来，家己呢已经是足忝，就甲这个人讲：“你安全啦，你去吧。”从伫迄个树下困去啦。这个人呢？那真感恩啊！但是呢，家己呢嘛是忝，又阁是枵啊。看到这只狗伫咧困到真入眠，伊就安尼想：这动物啊，生来呢就是人食的嘛。这只狗，我若食伊的肉来充饥，我都有力啦。注意拍定啊，就去抓着一粒的石头，向着这只狗来去。伊头部受伤啊，赶紧的 就背对树顶去了。伊将果啉下，看这个人，伊哭啦，伊感觉到人类的心啊，哪会这么正凶恶残酷？我的力会当救伊的人，不过我的德也袂当感化伊的人，我爱赶紧搁修行，德行力量俱全。我将来，我也是同款要来度伊。这就是清净的念。迄只狗就是释迦牟尼。释迦牟尼佛，累生累世啊，来人间，就是抱持着这点清净的本性，就是这种自爱的心。不管伊当着什么款的境界，还是这点爱，这点慈，这个心态，还是真清净。不管什么款的境界来，伊都无受污染。伊袂因为讲我救你，你哪会要来杀我呢？伊无有一点仔的怒气，也无有一丝仔的怨叹。他也搁在对这个众生去怜悯心，伊怜悯人类啊，就是这么讲无耻，所以伊去怜悯，所以伊再发愿，还是要过来度伊。不管是人心，或者是动物的心，心形不同啊，却是呢心性统一。迄个坚守着迄点清净的因，就有迄缘呢，伊就会当化污浊为清流。这就是修行。咱逐天啊，逐天面对着人群、世间的事物，倒一项毋是互咱烦恼呢？倒一项毋是互咱感觉到无奈？咱若会当好定来保持着咱的心，咱就绝对袂去受这个境界甲咱影响，咱还阁时时去感恩心。所以学佛啊，无别项，真单纯，就是若会晓顾好清净因缘。因就是咱内心的境界，缘呢是外面呢，甲咱的境界。咱也会当转恶缘啊，那为善缘，安尼咱就人事圆融。
Thank you, Dharma Master Zheng Yan. Through this video, we wanted to let people know that in the field of charity, it is still a path of Buddhism. It's still a ground for cultivation. So regardless of what challenges we face in the individuals, the charity cases, we need to ensure that we keep our hearts pure and that we do not lose faith in humanity because of the people that we interact with. So we need to ensure that we do not lose confidence in people and to remember our initial aspirations of wanting to do the charity work. So let me tell you guys another few examples. So this specific case, the male is the case recipient, and then he had some mental illnesses or disabilities. So he still had the ability to work, but he did find it challenging. And then it was very difficult to do work. So then he's often calls Tucci volunteers to request for financial assistance, financial aid. And then after Tucci volunteers have done a comprehensive case assessment, they concluded that they didn't feel like that they could help this specific case. And then after this case member called Tucci again, Tucci volunteer began to reopen the case and began to reevaluate this case and to think about which avenues, how we can assist this person. So we thought we can help this person go on the journey of searching for a job. So then this person, his original employer was actually very compassionate, and then he was willing to help out with this journey of helping this person find a new job. So with Tsuchi Volunteers, a company, this individual found a secondhand bicycle where he could ride to work. So he was able to ride to one of the schools in Taiwan to help out in the kitchen. And then the kitchen staff were very grateful for his assistance as well. So the Tsuchi volunteers know that it's very challenging for the individual to, I guess, ride a bicycle in hot weather. So the Tsuchi volunteers brought the individual to a second store to buy a second-hand hat, so that he can keep the sun away, so that he can stay in shade. And we also proposed the idea of the bamboo bank to this individual to encourage him to give to the community as well. And it's not just that he's taking stuff away, but he's also giving back to the community. And we also said if this individual can consistently work with his employer, then the Tsuchi volunteers could consider helping him pay his rent or provide any rental assistance. However, at the end of the day, the individual did not follow through. They only worked a few days with the employer and didn't continue to work on a prolonged period of time. But so while in the case the ending may not have been the best situation, but we always want to give individuals an opportunities. But it's not just an opportunity for this individual, but it's also an opportunity for us ourselves to grow, and so that we can learn in the future how we can encourage more people and how we can interact with more community members. So then although this case may not have been as successful as we wanted, we should not feel very disencouraged, and we should not lose our confidence in people. If things don't go well, sometimes we need to learn to let go as well, so that we can keep our initial aspirations at heart, so that our initial aspirations are not affected. So there's a homework that everyone should kind of think about after the session, is that we need to really learn to balance between our perceptual and the rational, essentially our emotions and our logical reasoning in our mind as well. So we shouldn't let our emotions stop us and make us not unable to appropriately assess the case. We should use our emotions to support us in these rationalizations so that we can connect and educate these individuals. And then we use our analyzing abilities to analyze the case and to rationalize them as well, and to ensure that we keep Tsuchi charity principles at heart so that we don't end up doing any improper evaluations. So this ends our sharing for today. Thank you, everyone. So everyone, we're saying thank you to the facilitators. I'm sure we learned a lot from the session today, and in terms of how we prepare for a trade case, the planning phase and the execution phase as well, so that we really understand how we can accompany these individuals. And even if there are challenges or hardships throughout the process, these are all things that nourishes us for us to grow. So in the afternoon, we will have more classes as well. So everyone, if you're free, please ensure that you can attend those classes too. And we wanted to apologize that we know there were some technical difficulties on the Chinese side. A lot of people on the English stream has commented to say that the Chinese stream wasn't working in the beginning. So this has been fixed, but we did want to apologize to everyone that we had to face these technical difficulties. Lastly, we just wanted to thank the speaker again for spending his time and passing on his wisdom on this topic to us. So everyone, I think this will end our stream for now in terms of the morning session. Please remember to join for the next afternoon stream as well. Thank you, everyone.